This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're addressing something people fundamentally misunderstand about this channel's message. Some people assume I'm targeting women or trying to paint them as villains in the relationship story. That's not what's happening here. What I'm doing is identifying patterns that systematically destroy families. And when you examine relationship dysfunction honestly, when you look at marriages that fail, at homes that transform into war zones, at families that collapse under the weight of unresolved conflict, there's a pattern you cannot ignore. Women initiate most of the conflict, women resist most of the accountability, and women blame men for problems they systematically created. That's not opinion, that's not bias. That's observable reality backed by divorce statistics, therapy outcomes, and the lived experience of millions of men who can't say this publicly without being attacked. And pointing out this reality doesn't make me anti-woman. It makes me pro-family. Because families cannot function, cannot thrive, cannot survive long-term when one person operates with complete immunity from accountability. Let me establish something before we go further. I don't hate women. That accusation gets thrown around constantly, usually by people who can't refute the actual argument, so they attack the messenger instead. Hating women would be pointless and counterproductive. What I oppose, what I will continue to oppose, is the specific patterns of behavior that destroy marriages, damage children, and leave good men emotionally destroyed while being told they're the problem. There's a massive difference between criticizing women as a group and criticizing specific toxic behaviors that some women engage in. If I said all women are terrible, that would be misogyny. What I'm actually saying is these specific behaviors that many women engage in are destroying families, and we need to address them. That's not hatred. That's pattern recognition. That's advocacy for the families being destroyed by these patterns. Everyone who's honest understands women struggle with accountability. You see it everywhere. In the comments under videos like this, women flood in asking, what about the men? Why don't you talk about what men do wrong? Why are you only focusing on women? Here's the answer, and I want you to really hear this. Men have their issues. Absolutely. Men can be lazy, conflict avoidant, porn addicted, emotionally unavailable, financially irresponsible. Those are real problems that real men struggle with. I'm not denying any of that. But here's what changes the equation entirely. Most of those male problems dramatically improve or disappear completely when the wife is reasonable, supportive, and sexually available. A man with a peaceful home, a respectful wife who actually likes him, and consistent intimacy doesn't create problems. He solves them. He builds. He leads. He protects. He becomes the man she claims she wants him to be. You give a man peace at home, and he'll conquer the world outside of it. You give him respect, and he'll move mountains to deserve it. You give him consistent intimacy, and his motivation to provide and protect multiplies exponentially. This isn't theory. This is how male psychology operates at a fundamental level. But a man living with constant criticism, sexual rejection, and a wife who refuses accountability for anything, that man becomes a shell of what he could be. Not because he's inherently weak, but because his home, the place that should be his refuge, has become a battlefield. And his wife, the person who should be his greatest supporter, is the one firing shots at him daily. So until women get their side handled, until they address their contribution to relationship dysfunction, focusing on men's issues is just deflection. It's another tactical maneuver to avoid looking in the mirror and accepting uncomfortable truths about their own behavior. I know exactly why some women believe men cause all relationship problems, because that's what they've been systematically taught. Society has programmed them to see men as the problem and themselves as perpetual victims who bear no responsibility for any negative outcome. Women are a wonderful effect. Look it up. It's a documented psychological bias where both men and women automatically assume women are better, more moral, more trustworthy than men. This programming starts early. Little girls are taught they're sugar and spice and everything nice, while boys are snips and snails and puppy dog tails. This continues through education, where boys are punished more harshly for the same behaviors, where male energy is pathologized as toxic, where masculinity itself is treated as something that needs to be corrected rather than channeled. By the time women reach adulthood, they've internalized a framework that says, if there's a problem in the relationship, look at what the man is doing wrong. Never look at yourself. Your feelings are always valid. Your perspective is always legitimate. If you're unhappy, it's because he's failing you, not because you might be the problem. This framework is absolutely poisonous to relationships. And here's what actually happens when a woman operates from it. When her husband gets upset, frustrated, or angry, her immediate thought is, he's just being a jerk again. Never. What did I do to cause this man frustration? Never. How many times did I dismiss him, ignore him, interrupt him, talk over him, or react defensively before he finally raised his voice? Never. What pattern of disrespect or rejection led to this moment? It's a completely broken way of thinking, and it accomplishes two profoundly destructive things that compound over time until the marriage is unrecognizable. First, it creates a woman who believes her behavior is acceptable when it's actually toxic. She thinks nagging is just effective communication. She thinks withholding intimacy is setting healthy boundaries. She thinks dismissing his concerns is standing up for herself. She thinks criticizing him publicly is just venting to her friends. She thinks spending money they don't have is self-care. She thinks prioritizing everyone and everything above him is just being a good mother. She's not a partner. She's a problem that never gets solved because she refuses to acknowledge she's creating the problem. And because she won't acknowledge it, she can't fix it. So the behavior continues, intensifies, and becomes the normalized pattern of the relationship. Second, it shames and systematically punishes the man for speaking up about issues. Every single time he tries to address a problem with her behavior, she reframes it as him being controlling, insensitive, mean, unsupportive, or attacking her. She makes his legitimate concern about her behavior into a referendum on his character. She trains him through consistent punishment that honesty isn't worth the cost, that bringing up issues leads to days or weeks of hostility, sexual rejection, emotional withdrawal, and being portrayed as the bad guy. So rationally, logically, he stops being honest. He stops addressing issues. He emotionally withdraws and protects himself. And then she wonders why he's distant, why he doesn't share with her anymore, why he seems checked out. She created the exact outcome she claims to hate. But she'll never connect her behavior to his response because that would require accountability, which is the one thing she's systematically avoiding. This pattern creates what I call the label game, and it's probably the most destructive dynamic in modern marriage aside from infidelity. Once you understand how this game works, you'll see it everywhere, in your own marriage, in your friends' marriages, in every relationship around you. Here's the detailed breakdown of how it operates. She does something irrational, irresponsible, financially reckless, disrespectful, or contrary to their shared goals and values. Could be overspending, could be disrespecting him in front of others, could be neglecting agreed-upon responsibilities, could be making major decisions without consulting him. The specific behavior doesn't matter. What matters is it's problematic and needs to be addressed. He brings it to her attention calmly and respectfully, uses I statements, doesn't attack her character, focuses on the specific behavior and its impact. Does everything the marriage counselors say to do. Hey, I noticed the credit card bill is way over budget this month. Can we talk about what happened? She ignores him, doesn't respond, changes the subject, gives a dismissive answer, or says we'll talk about it later and never brings it up again. This is the first test. She's seeing if he'll just let it go. He doesn't let it go because it's actually important. He rephrases it, tries a different approach, maybe brings it up at a different time. I'm serious about needing to discuss the budget. This is affecting our financial goals. Still calm, still respectful, still trying to problem solve like an adult. Still ignored or dismissed. She might add some defensiveness now. Why are you making such a big deal about this? Or you're always trying to control me, or I work too. I can spend money. None of this addresses the actual issue. It's all deflection designed to make him either back off or escalate. He tries one more time, maybe two more times, increasingly frustrated that his wife simply will not engage with a legitimate concern. His tone starts showing that frustration. He might raise his voice slightly. He might use more direct language, not abusive, not attacking, just displaying the natural human response to being repeatedly dismissed by someone who's supposed to be your partner. And there it is. She just won the game in her mind. Because now the entire issue has shifted. The problem is no longer her overspending or whatever the original behavior was. The problem is now that he's a jerk who yelled at her, that he's being mean, that he can't communicate properly, that his tone was harsh, that he's making her feel attacked. She'll spend the next 3 days, sometimes 3 weeks, making him apologize for his tone, for raising his voice, for making her feel bad. She'll tell her friends about how he yelled at her. She'll give him the silent treatment. She'll withhold intimacy. She'll make it clear that his behavior, his reaction to being repeatedly dismissed is unacceptable and he needs to change. Meanwhile, her actual behavior, the overspending or disrespect or irresponsibility that started this entire cycle, never gets addressed, never gets acknowledged, never gets changed. It disappears completely under the avalanche of focus on his tone, his frustration, his supposed character flaw. This isn't conflict resolution. This is sophisticated manipulation. She's using his frustration, which she deliberately created by refusing to engage with a legitimate concern through multiple respectful attempts, as a weapon to avoid accountability entirely. And it works spectacularly, because most men would rather have peace than be right. So they apologize for getting upset, for raising their voice, for their tone, while her actual problematic behavior continues unchanged. Can you see why this pattern systematically destroys marriages? Every single cycle like this teaches the man a devastating lesson. His wife cannot and will not be held accountable for anything. That addressing her behavior isn't just ineffective, it's actively punished. that his role in this marriage isn't partner, it's emotional punching bag who absorbs her dysfunction, accepts her disrespect, and never pushes back because pushing back costs too much. Over years of this pattern, something breaks inside the man. He stops trying to address issues. He stops caring enough to fight. He stops expecting her to be a partner. He becomes the distant, emotionally unavailable, checked-out husband she complains about to her friends. He never talks to me anymore. He's always in the garage or on his phone. He doesn't engage with me. I don't know what happened to him. What happened to him is she systematically trained him that engagement is punished. She destroyed his willingness to be vulnerable with her by weaponizing every vulnerability. She killed his desire to share concerns by making every concern into a multi-day war where he's the villain. And she has absolutely no idea she created the exact man she now resents, because accepting that truth would require the accountability she spent years avoiding. Let me give you some real examples from men I've counseled, because this pattern plays out with depressing consistency across thousands of marriages. Client 1, his wife overspent by $3,000 on a girl's trip they couldn't afford. He tried to discuss it calmly. We agreed on a budget for this trip. What happened? She immediately got defensive. I never get to do anything for myself. You always try to control me. I work hard. I deserve this. He tried again. It's not about deserving it. It's about we literally cannot afford an extra $3,000 right now. We have other obligations. She started crying. Why do you always make me feel guilty? You're so mean to me. The conversation ended with him comforting her for being upset that he brought up her overspending. The $3,000? Never addressed. The pattern continues. Next month, she overspent by $2,000 on redecorating. Same cycle. Eventually, he just stopped checking the credit card statements because dealing with her reaction was worse than just accepting the financial damage. Client 2, his wife consistently disrespected him in front of her family, interrupting him, contradicting him, making jokes at his expense, undermining his decisions with the kids. He asked her privately to stop. When you do that in front of your family, it makes me feel disrespected and undermines my authority with the kids. Her response? You're too sensitive. They don't mean anything by it. Why are you trying to come between me and my family? You're being controlling. He tried addressing it 3 more times over 6 months. Each time, she reframed his legitimate concern about disrespect as him being insecure or controlling or causing problems with her family. Eventually, he stopped going to family events. Now she complains that he doesn't want to spend time with her family, completely disconnected from the fact that she made those events intolerable for him and refused to address it. Client 3, dead bedroom situation, once a month or less. He tried everything. Communicated his needs clearly, asked what he could do to improve the situation, tried romance, tried being more helpful around the house, tried backing off and giving her space. Nothing changed. When he finally said, "This is seriously damaging our marriage and we need to address it," she responded with, "Is that all you ever think about? You're so shallow. There's more to marriage than sex. I'm tired, I'm stressed, I have a lot going on. Stop pressuring me." Notice the pattern. His legitimate need for intimacy got reframed as him being shallow and pressuring her. The actual issue, that she's completely withdrawn intimacy from the marriage, never gets addressed. He's just the bad guy for wanting physical connection with his wife. Eventually, he stopped asking. Now she occasionally complains that he never initiates anymore, completely oblivious to the fact that she trained him to stop through years of rejection and criticism. These aren't isolated cases. This is the standard operating procedure in millions of marriages right now. The wife does something problematic. The husband tries to address it respectfully. She deflects, gets defensive, makes it about his communication style or tone. He either backs off to preserve peace, or he escalates out of frustration, and then she has proof he's the problem. Either way, her behavior never gets addressed and the pattern continues. Now let's talk about why this matters so much. Why I focus on it so intensely. Why this pattern is absolutely catastrophic for families. Men have straightforward needs in relationships. This isn't complicated or mysterious. Peace at home and consistent intimacy. That's the foundation. Everything else builds from there. Give a man those 2 things and 95% of men are gentle, supportive, patient, and easy to live with. They become better fathers, better providers, better leaders in every area of life. Here's why this works. When a man has peace at home, his stress levels drop dramatically. His home becomes the refuge it's supposed to be instead of another battlefield. He can decompress, recharge, and face the world's challenges from a position of strength. His capacity to handle stress at work increases. His patience with life's difficulties expands. His decision-making improves because he's not operating from a place of constant stress. When a man has consistent intimacy with his wife, several profound things happen psychologically and biologically. His bonding to her strengthens. His motivation to provide and protect multiplies. His confidence increases. His sense of being valued and desired by the woman he chose reinforces his masculine identity. The physical connection creates emotional connection in ways that work differently for men than women. For men, physical intimacy creates emotional intimacy. For women, it's often reversed. Understanding this difference is critical. A man who has both peace and intimacy becomes the best version of himself. He thrives professionally because his home supports rather than drains him. He's a better father because he has the emotional energy to engage with his children. He's more patient with extended family, more generous with friends, more effective in every role he occupies. His wife receives the benefits of him operating at his highest capacity. But deprive a man of peace and intimacy, subject him to constant criticism, sexual rejection, and a wife who refuses accountability for anything, you don't get a better man. You get a broken one. Not because he's weak or flawed, but because you've systematically dismantled the foundation he needs to function at his highest level. Without peace at home, his stress compounds daily. He's fighting battles at work and then coming home to more conflict, more criticism, more problems to solve that his wife creates, but won't acknowledge. He can't decompress. He can't recharge. He operates in a constant state of stress that erodes his health, his patience, his capacity to lead effectively. Without intimacy, he experiences rejection from the one person whose acceptance matters most. His wife's rejection communicates that he's not desirable, not valued, not worth her effort. This creates a wound that doesn't heal because it's reopened constantly. His confidence erodes, his motivation to provide decreases because what's the point of working hard for someone who won't even touch him? The emotional bond weakens because the physical connection that creates it for men has been severed. Over time, this man doesn't become a better husband. He becomes withdrawn, defensive, emotionally unavailable, and resentful. He stops trying because trying is punished. He stops caring because caring leads to pain. He stops engaging because engagement costs more than it returns. And his wife looks at this man she systematically created and complains that he's not the man she married, completely unable or unwilling to see her role in destroying him. Women bring most of the dysfunction into relationships. Not all of it, certainly. Men contribute. But if we're being statistically and observationally honest, women initiate most of the conflict, resist most of the accountability, and create most of the emotional chaos that destroys marriages. The constant fitness testing, seeing how far they can push before he pushes back. The emotional manipulation using tears or anger or withdrawal to control outcomes. The treating of intimacy as a reward for good behavior rather than a foundational part of partnership. The manufacturing of drama where none needs to exist. The victim mentality where everything that goes wrong is someone else's fault. The inability to apologize sincerely without adding "but you" to shift blame back. That's not men bringing these dynamics, that's women. And the reason this matters, the reason I focus on it relentlessly, is because families cannot thrive when women operate this way. Children suffer watching their mother disrespect their father. They learn dysfunctional relationship patterns. Boys learn that women can't be trusted and will punish you for being honest. Girls learn that accountability doesn't apply to them, and manipulation is how you control men. The cycle perpetuates. Men deteriorate under constant criticism and rejection. They become shadows of their potential. The family loses access to his full capacity because his wife is actively destroying it through her behavior. The home becomes a place of stress and conflict instead of refuge and support. Everyone suffers. And the woman sits in the center of all this destruction, convinced she's the victim, that her husband's withdrawal is unprovoked, that the problems would disappear if he would just change, completely blind to the fact that she's the common denominator in every problem she complains about.
God damn it, I like the way you do business.
This is easily the best video I've ever seen on why most relationships between men and women, particularly marriages, become so full of pain and conflict and suffering and dysfunction. But even this very wise brother doesn't understand the true cause of this behavior from women. So let's be clear, the behavior he's talking about can be summarized as women's emotional reasoning and women's allergy to taking accountability. It's that combination that leads to the label game and everything he described, which he described better than I've ever seen described anywhere. For anyone that doesn't accept that women are the primary cause of relationship dysfunction and relationship breakdown, let me just let you know the data. So they now have data on domestic violence and divorce rates in lesbian marriages, heterosexual marriages, and gay marriages. The lowest rate of domestic violence are between two men, gay marriages. The next lowest rate of domestic violence are between a man and a woman. The highest rate of domestic violence are between two women, lesbians. So you can argue as much as you want.
The highest rate of divorce are lesbians. by a mile. Lesbian marriages have the highest rate of divorce in the world. The second level of divorce is heterosexuals. The lowest level of divorce is gay married men. Now, let me mansplain to you what's just happened. The lesbians find it very hard to stay married because there are 2 women involved. Heterosexual marriages aren't without their complications because there is still 1 woman involved. Did you know the word gay means happy? With good reason, because there are no women involved.
It's clear. The more women there are in the relationship, the more problems. Women are the source of the problems in relationships, and it is because of emotional reasoning, which means thinking with your feelings. Women tend to think with their feelings rather than with objective facts. So, for example, if a woman asks her husband, "Do I look fat in this?" and she does look fat in it, and he says the truth, "Yeah, you kind of do look fat in it," she will think with her feelings because she'll be upset about the thought of looking fat. So her emotions will be triggered. She won't think rationally and critically that, well, I asked him to tell me if I look fat and he told me I look fat, so I got what I asked for. She won't think logically. She'll think with her feelings. I feel bad, and I feel bad because of what he said. So what he said was wrong and bad. He's wrong and bad. He was mean to me. Now I'm going to punish him. That is what emotional reasoning causes.
Ah, you motherfucker!
Men tend to think logically and rationally, and men and women can think logically and rationally. But when you trigger a woman, logic and reason goes out of the window and she thinks with her feelings. That's emotional reasoning, and the vast majority of women are emotional reasoners, probably about 90-95%. It used to be lower, and I'll come back to that. The second thing is women's inability to take accountability for their negative behavior or dysfunctional behavior. I could make a whole video about this, but I don't need to, because anyone that's ever known a woman, thank you God, lived with a woman, is a woman, knows that this is true.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
It's simply true. And combined with emotional reasoning, it is the reason that relationships with women are so difficult and become so painful for the man and become so dysfunctional and terrible for the children.
Agreed.
Emotional reasoning and the inability to take accountability for your negative and dysfunctional behavior. That's the actual problem. And as I said, he laid it out brilliantly. I just wanted to clarify what the actual issue was before I point out why he doesn't actually understand the real problem. So prior to the adoption of feminist ideology in the 70s in the West, UK, America, Canada, etc., it's estimated that about 20% of women were not emotional reasoners and were also able to take accountability. So as a man, you stood a 1 in 5 chance of being married to a woman who didn't do what was described in that video. 4 out of 5 men had this experience. Back in the 60s and the 50s and prior to that, if you asked 100 married men, what is your marriage like? 80 of them would have said their marriage was like it was described in that video. And 20 of them said, no, my wife's wonderful. We have a wonderful marriage. Since the adoption of feminism, which I've pointed out in many other videos, is actually female supremacy, and since the culture has inculcated female supremacy in the vast majority of women in the West, if you asked 100 married men today, what is your marriage like? 90 to 95% of them would say, as it's described in that video. And 10 to 5% of them would say, no, my wife is wonderful. She takes accountability. She's not an emotional reasoner. Yeah. So what feminism has done has reduced by 75% the number of quote unquote good women that are capable of healthy, loving, long-term relationships. There are always a minority anyway, and I might go into the reasons for that, but I don't think I have to. Or maybe I do. So we know why women are emotional reasoners. First of all, women are more in touch with their emotions than men. They have a higher capacity for emotion. These are all good things, and these are all evolutionary adaptations because women have to raise babies. I've talked about this in other videos. I won't go into too much detail. But it is natural for women to be more in touch with their emotions and to have a higher capacity for emotions. So women can get happy and joyful in a giddy way that is basically orgasmic. And women can get depressed and unhappy in a way that is, like neurotic hysteria. So they have a higher capacity than men for both positive and negative emotions. That is just part of being a woman. Not bad, not wrong, just the way it is. And it's because of that that women struggle so much with accountability, because to take accountability requires you to face the painful feelings of being wrong, inadequate, at fault, selfish, stupid, all the things that human beings are that cause them to behave in dysfunctional ways or negative ways that impact other people negatively, their husband, their girlfriend, their wife, their children, their family, their parents, etc. Yeah, all human beings have these things: stupidity, selfishness, making mistakes, dysfunctional patterns, addictions, all the rest of it. Yeah, that's all human. But in order to be able to say, yes, I fucked up, that was my fault, I caused you pain and suffering, I caused our family pain and suffering, our children, I caused us to lose money, I caused our family to suffer, I am responsible for that pain and suffering to others. In order to be able to do that, to take accountability in that way, you have to feel the pain that you have caused. You have to empathize with the pain that you have caused, and you have to feel it. It's by feeling it that you can say, I need to do better. But because women are so much more, women are actually hypersensitive to emotion, both positive and negative. And again, they are that way because that is required to be a good mother to a newborn baby and a young infant. So it's part of being a woman. There's nothing wrong with it. But one of the secondary effects of women's hypersensitivity to emotion is that they are hypersensitive to negative emotion. And the negative emotion of, it's my fault, I caused dysfunction and pain to my husband and friends and family and children and whoever, parents, is too much for most women. Because of our culture. I'll come back to that in a minute. But in general, it's too much. That's why I said, even before feminism, 80% of women struggled with accountability, because it's just naturally, they're hypersensitive to negative emotion. So anything that causes negative emotion, women will avoid like the plague. They will distract themselves. They will numb the pain by drinking. Not that men don't do that, but women are experts at avoiding feeling negative emotion unless it comes wrapped in positive emotion, which is what happens when they chase the bad boy. They like the up and down roller coaster of negative emotion when it's preceded by and followed by positive emotion. Then they can take it. But if it's just the straight up negative emotion of you're in the wrong, of I'm in the wrong, it's my fault, I'm a quote unquote bad person, even though they're not, if they've just made a mistake or done something stupid or selfish like all human beings, that straight up negative emotion, they can't take it. That's why women are allergic to accountability. So you've got the emotional reasoning because women are more in touch with their emotions and they have a higher capacity, a hypersensitivity to emotion, and then that causes them to want to avoid negative emotions much more than men want to avoid them. Yeah, so that's where it comes from. And that existed prior to feminism in about 80% of women, but feminism has made it 95% of women, pretty much. So there's only a tiny amount of women that are not emotional reasoners and therefore can handle negative emotion and therefore can take accountability. And that's the reason that it is pointless to do what he did in the latter part of the video, which is to try and talk women out of this, to try and train women out of this, to try and counsel women out of this, to try and therapy women out of this. It is a complete waste of time, certainly in our culture, but probably even before, to try and get women not to be emotional reasoners and not to avoid the pain of accountability. You can do it, but it makes the relationship one of, like a parent and child. You kind of have to treat your woman like a child, and you kind of have to treat your woman as though you were her therapist. And anyone who knows anything about relationships is your husband can't be your therapist and your husband can't be your father. You have to be equals. You have to be equally responsible, equally mature for a relationship to work. So it's just not reasonable or sensible or effective or possible to do what he's describing here. But obviously, the people who watch his videos and most men, they want to believe that they can fix their relationships once they're married to a woman of the 95% who are emotional reasoners and can't take accountability. Men want to fix their relationship. They want to be married to the woman they fell in love with. And so these kind of channels, even though he's super wise and really gets it, they have to promote a message of hope for men who want to either still want to get married or are already married and want to fix their marriage. They have to present a message of hope. I don't. I'm not trying to build a YouTube channel. I'm not trying to get views. I'm not trying to be supported by the culture. I'm just telling you the truth. So here is what I have to say.
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
The good news about the effect that female supremacy and feminism has had on the psyche of women, such that they are even more unempathetic towards their husbands and boyfriends. They care even less about the effects of their behavior, such that they will not take accountability and they will emotionally reason and blame their man for everything, even more than they did before. The good news about that is that it reveals a deeper truth, a more important truth of life, which is that the world can't make you happy.
That's right, I said it.
The truth is, relationships are not meant to make you happy. Even though men believe if they find a beautiful woman, the right woman, a good woman, they can live happily ever after with her, or certainly live a decent life, a happy life with children and a happy family, that is an illusion. It's never been true, because relationships are part of the world. They're outside of you, and nothing outside of you, nothing in the world will ever make you happy. That is the truth that feminism and female supremacy has given men a gift.
Your thoughts? What? The fuck are you talking about? The fuck are you talking about?
By making it obvious.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Before feminism, married men talked to each other and they kind of knew what women were like and didn't take accountability and emotional reasoners. But the laws were such that men could dominate their women. Basically, rape in marriage wasn't made illegal till the 70s. So back in the day, men would just take sex. So women didn't have that power to kind of reject their husbands sexually. They were forced to have sex against their will, which is obviously wrong. I'm not advocating for that at all, but that was the facts. So back in the day, if you were one of the 80% of men that didn't get a good one, a woman that was not an emotional reasoner and could take accountability. If you didn't get a good one, like 4 out of 5 men didn't, if you were that kind of guy, you could take sex anyway, have affairs, and not allow the woman to break you in the way discussed in the video. Since the sexual revolution and feminism, you can't do that as a man, and I wouldn't recommend it either. You can't just quote unquote rape your wife, and you can't just dominate her and be a bully. Thank God. So what are you supposed to do as a man? If you can't do what they used to do in the old days and just dominate and bully her, and you can't fix her or train her, that leaves you with basically wake up, become spiritual, understand the true purpose of relationship, understand the truth that the world can't make you happy. You have to make you happy. And you can only make yourself happy by living from and for your soul instead of living from and for your ego.
Oh my God. I get it.
That's what I have to say. I'm not selling a message of hope. I'm not telling you you can fix women or you can learn game and get the best women, and that's all bollocks.
I immediately don't like you.
As far as I'm concerned, that's all bullshit. It's teaching you a lie. It's teaching you the lie that the world can make you happy, that you can find peace, joy, and fulfillment in the world, which is what I mean by happy. I don't mean the fleeting emotion. Most men are wise enough to know that the kind of happiness women talk about is not possible. And most men don't expect that. They don't expect the fleeting, gleeful feeling of happiness that women chase. You know, that emotional feeling of happiness. Most men understand what happiness means. It means peace, inner peace, peace of mind. It means natural joy, which is that feeling of just, yeah, I like life. Life is good. Yeah, that natural joy. Not a fleeting feeling, but a default level of just okayness. And then fulfillment. And fulfillment is the feeling that your life is meaningful and that your life is full of purpose and that you are living the life you're supposed to be living. That's what is happiness, true happiness. And I think most men understand that. But most men make the mistake of thinking that if they find the right relationship or make the right amount of money or become accomplished in their career, get the right amount of status or power or fame, that they will feel those things, peace, joy, and fulfillment, but they won't. It's impossible. Nobody in the history of the world has ever felt inner peace, joy, and fulfillment based on something in the world, a relationship, money, material, success, whatever.
I really don't like you. Seriously.
Because it's impossible. Because that feeling of true happiness, inner peace, natural joy, and fulfillment only comes from one place. That comes from living the life that your soul, which chose to, basically create a body and to create your ego and personality. Your soul chose that for a very specific type of experience, a very specific type of life. You can only experience inner peace and joy and fulfillment when you live that life, when you live from and for your soul instead of from and for your ego. It's that simple. So I celebrate feminism, female supremacy, misandry.
What did you say, nigga?
The revelation of how women are the master gaslighters, how they are the master manipulators, and how they ruin relationships and make men miserable. I celebrate it.
What did you say? What the did you just say?
Because hopefully more men will turn to the true purpose of life and will begin to recognize that their life is about their soul, not finding the right woman, not making a woman happy.
Oh, I see.
And the same for women, actually. I hope that women will realize that it's not about finding Mr. Right or Prince Charming, because the purpose of life is the same for women. It's to live the life of your soul, not your ego. And I hope that the dysfunction of modern dating and this dysfunction of modern relationships, that's why I talk about it so much, reveals the truth that has always been true. Relationships aren't meant to make you happy, and they can't make you happy. They're there to make you grow and wake up.
Oh my God. I get it.
That's the purpose of our dysfunctional relationships. They're meant to make you realize, oh yeah, no one else can ever make me happy. No amount of hedonism, pleasure, sex can make me happy. No amount of achievement, accomplishment, success can make me happy. No amount of money, material wealth, and experiences can make me happy. Only living from and for my soul can make me happy, not my ego. And it's my ego that wants the success, the accomplishment, the sex, the hedonism, the pleasure, the love from a woman. It's the ego that wants all that. And it can never be filled. The ego is a bottomless pit of lack, fear, craving, and neediness, and it can never be filled. Take it from your Uncle Paradox. So yeah, brilliant video, absolutely spot on. But as per usual, those that are selling men hope always fall off at the end when they say either you need to become a Chad so that you can game the hottest women because that will make you happy.
Man, there you go with that bullshit.
You need to train and fix your woman so that she's a good wife.
A, that is bullshit. And B, she is a complete bitch.
Or you need to just pay for sex from prostitutes and be MGTOW and that will make you happy.
That is bullshit.
Nothing you do in the world will make you happy, will bring you peace, joy and fulfillment. Only the spiritual path of living from and for your soul will bring you that inner peace, joy and fulfillment. And as far as I'm concerned, the most accessible, relatable, simple, effective and genius spiritual path of all is the one I practice that brought me exactly that inner peace, joy and fulfillment, and has brought many of the people I've mentored that inner peace, joy and fulfillment. The path that is best at doing that is the way of mastery.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
So I encourage you, I invite you to wake up to the truth. The world can't make you happy. No woman will ever make you happy. No man will ever make you happy. Marry your soul.
Oh, you crazy.
Fall in love with your soul.
That's crazy.
Because your soul is your true beloved. Your soul can deliver the dreams of and longing and yearning you have for unconditional love, inner peace, utter joy and bliss. All of that you deeply long for, only your soul can deliver it.
Oh, I see.
And the way of mastery will bring you into a relationship with your soul that will transform your entire experience of life.
Yes! Yes!
Make it so.
Here endeth the lesson. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.